In Week 1, Khalil Mack had a sack, interception, forced fumble recovery, and a touchdown. The last person to do that in one game was Khalil Mack. In Week 2, Mack had 1 sack, 5 tackles, and a forced fumble, and the Raiders are 0-2. These instant results have us all asking, when was the last time a train wreck trade happened right before our eyes? As a general rule of thumb, you probably shouldn't trade players who won Defensive Player of the League 2 seasons ago. He is 3-time All-Pro, 2-time First-Team All-Pro, and 1-time Defensive Player of the Year through 4 seasons. He is the first player in history to make the Pro Bowl at 2 positions, defensive end and outside linebacker. On the Oakland Raiders, Khalil Mack recorded 38.8% of the sacks recorded on the entire Raiders roster from 2015 to 2017, and recorded the most tackles of any Raider since starting his rookie season. What the Raiders receive back may or may not make much of an impact for them. The Raiders gave up the former Defensive Player of the Year, their 2020 second-round pick, and a conditional 5th-round pick to receive a 2019 first-round pick, a 2020 first-round pick, a 2019 6th-round pick, and a 2020 3rd-round pick. Those 6th and 3rd-round picks may or may not make the starting squad for the Raiders. If you look at the Raiders roster, you'll realize that there's not a ton of talent there, indicating their drafting skills are a little questionable. So they received 2 first-round picks. The problem is, Chicago now has real potential. Their defense ranked 7th against the run and 11th against the pass last season. With the addition of Mack, they could easily crack the top 5 in both thanks to his play disruption. So if they end up in the top half of the league, which it certainly seems like they will, it's hard to believe the Raiders will find a player more valuable than Khalil Mack with the 20th pick in the draft. The Raiders have since clarified, stating they couldn't afford to have 2 huge contracts on the team. I'm not sure if this is the best way they can frame it, because it further highlights a contract they perhaps shouldn't have gave out. Derek Carr is currently tied for the 4th highest paid quarterback in the NFL at $25 million a year for 5 years, getting paid as much per year as Drew Brees. I like Derek Carr. I think he's a mid-level NFL quarterback, but he's certainly not a top 4 quarterback, and he's certainly not Drew Brees. They chose to give out this contract after Carr had a solid season, but not a stellar one, as he ranked 9th in QBR in the league in players who attempted 200 passes or more. Ahead of him on that list, Brian Hoyer, and no one gave him a $25 million a year contract. While this is debatably the worst trade in 10 years, I did find 3 others that will make this trade look arguably fine in comparison. I will also be making a top list of worst NFL trades ever to see where Khalil Mack ranks, which will be released in a few weeks. 1. The Vikings trade for Herschel Walker. That is, the Vikings trade 24% of a team roster for Herschel Walker, 5 players and 8 draft picks. The Cowboys turned 2 of those draft picks into Hall of Famers in Emmitt Smith and Darren Woodson, and ruled the 90s in large part in thanks to the Vikings. Herschel Walker's stats the following year: 770 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. 2. The Saints trade 8 draft picks to draft Ricky Williams in 1999. The Saints go 3-13 that season, and the coach Mike Ditka immediately gets fired as the season ends. Ricky Williams' stats that season: 884 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3.5 yards per carry. 3. The Raiders trade Randy Moss to New England for a 4th-round pick. The next season, Randy set the NFL record for receiving touchdowns in a season at 23, a record that still stands, and had 1,493 receiving yards. What do you guys think? Is there any deal you would make to trade Khalil Mack? Or are we still blowing this one out of proportion? Hit us up at AngrySportsMob on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and let us know. Subscribe for more videos.